In this video, we're going to be multiplying, dividing, and simplifying radicals. Okay, so our first problem is we're going to be simplifying 2 times the square root of 3 times 3 times the square root of 48. Okay, so how we do this is we multiply the two numbers that are before the radical, so 2 times 3, and then after that we multiply the radicands. So that's the number that's underneath the radical sign. So 2 times 3 times the square root of 3 times the square root of 48. Now we can take the square root of 48 and the square root of 3 and put them under the same radical sign. So it looks like this. Okay, and then our next step is we can multiply 2 times 3 and we get 6. And then when we multiply 3 times 48, we get 144. So really, this now becomes 6 times the square root of 144. I'm going to bring that up here. Okay, and the square root of 144 is 12. So 6 times 12 equals 72. Okay, that was easy. Let's move on. Okay, let's say I want you to simplify the square root of 76 times the square root of 54 over 28. Well, this can be rewritten like this. Square root of 76 times 54 28ths. Okay, so now we have a fraction, a multiplication problem, a fraction multiplication problem. So we can cross reduce here. This becomes a 1, this becomes a 4, this becomes a 1, this becomes a 9. So now I'm going to bring this over here. Actually, I'll just rewrite it. So now our problem looks like this. 1 over 1 times 9/4, which is the same thing as the square root of 9/4. But now remember, we can expand this. And now this becomes the square root of 9 over the square root of 4, which equals 3 over 2. Okay, next problem. Let's say we want to simplify 2 over the square root of 3. Now we can't have any radical signs in the denominator. So what we can do then is we can multiply this fraction by 1. And in order to do that, we can multiply this fraction, like I said, by 1. And this equals 1. Square root of 3 over the square root of 3. Now if you notice, I chose the square root of 3 because the denominator in this case is the square root of 3. So what happens now is, in the denominator, the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is 3. Okay? And now our numerator, we just multiply them, we get 2 over the square root of 3. Okay? All right, let's move on. Okay, so let's simplify this. The square root of 5/8. Sorry, that's my dog. Okay, so the square root of 5/8. Okay, let's expand that. So that becomes square root of 5 over the square root of 8. And, or like I said, no radical sign in the denominator, so let's multiply this by square root of 8 over the square root of 8. Okay, and so now we have the denominator becomes 8, and the numerator becomes the square root of 5 times 8. So square root of 5 times 8, which is 40. Okay, and we can simplify this. Let's go ahead and rewrite that. Okay, And now let's think of two factors where one of them is a perfect square. Okay, let's think. We could probably do, okay, we can't do, let's start. We have 4, yeah, we could do 4 times 10, or, yeah, let's try that, we'll do that. Square root of 4 times the square root of 10, okay, and that over 8. Now square root of 4 equals 2, so 2 times the square root of 10 over 8. And then we can actually simplify this to 2/8. Okay, this becomes a 1, this becomes a 4. Okay, and so we've got square root of 10 over 4. Okay, let's move on. Okay, okay, let's do this one. 5 times the square root of 2 over the square root of 12. Okay, now what we can do is we can go ahead and simplify the square root of 12, and that becomes the square root of 4 times the square root of 3, and this we can keep it at 5 5 times the square root of 2. Okay, now we can simplify this even more. Okay, here we go. So let's keep that 5 over the square root of 2, and the square root of 4 is 2 over the square root of 3. But now remember, we can't have a radical in the denominator. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get rid of that. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite that. 5 times square root of 2, 2 times the square root of 3. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's multiply this fraction by square root of 3. Or I'm sorry, multiply it by 1. And this equals 1. Square root of 3 over square root of 3. Okay, so now we have 2 times. Remember, this is really 2 times 3. So that's 6. And then we have 5 times, remember this is 2 times 3, that equals 6. And that gives us our answer. Okay, now let's move on to the last problem. Okay, so square root of 3 times the square root of 3 minus 4. Now, this, just by looking at it, we know it's distributive property. So let's go ahead and let's distribute this. So square root of 3 times square root of 3 is 3. Okay, and then the square root of 3 times negative 4 is negative 4 times the square root of 3.